Wow, like I worry about a lot of dumb shit.
Yeah.
That's just not necessary today. Like, let's just go outside.
Hello, everyone. What's going on? I'm Nils and this is the Backcountry podcast, a show aimed at providing insight into the outdoor industry by interviewing people who operate within it. Today, I'm going to be talking with Torstein Horgmo. For those who are unfamiliar, Torstein has one of the most impressive snowboard careers our sport has ever seen. Dominating slope contests for nearly a decade and showing no mercy in the backcountry, he's won countless events, was the first rider to land a triple cork, and was completely ahead of the curve on embracing YouTube as a content platform. His determination and innovation have led him to great successes, but what I think is most special is at the end of the day, he's still just a guy who absolutely loves to shred. What up, dude?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for that sweet intro.
Yeah, of course. It was almost too easy to put together. You've done so much.
Thank you.
How you doing, man? How's your summer going?
Been good. Summer's been hot. Hanging in Colorado for the last couple of months. Did a little trip home to Norway. Had to take care of some visa renewal stuff, and a little trip to Costa Rica for some surf. And other than that, just been enjoying the hot summer Colorado.
I mean, Colorado doesn't seem like too toasty, especially compared to maybe if you're in like Utah, for example.
It's weird. It's been really hot this summer, and I think it's been happening obviously more and more everywhere else. But at least we've had a lot of good rains too, so it's been good. But yeah, I'm enjoying the summers more and more out there.
Nice.
It's a good balance to all the time we spend in the winter.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Now, you mentioned going back home to Norway to renew some visas. Contextually for everyone, you're from Norway.
Born and raised.
You grew up riding there. What did like your early introduction to snowboarding look like?
I think I was around 10 or 11 when I was introduced to it by my cousin, who was someone I looked up to a lot, and sort of like everything that he got into, I wanted to try. And it was kind of around the time where Terje Håkonsen and Daniel Frank were sort of like at the height of like Arctic Challenge and the TTR thing, and like there was a lot of snowboarding publicity on TV and stuff in Norway. So I got to see some of it and was pretty curious about that. And then as soon as I started wanting to try it because of my cousin, it was kind of on from there. Just wanted to do it more and more. Kind of just the classic hook. Yeah. Just got hooked into it, and we were able to get VHS snowboard videos from the local skate shops and stuff like that. And so I started collecting those, and that was my main sort of inspiration to get going. It was like the filming side of snowboarding and dreaming about what that would be like to be like sort of one of those guys. And I think the first movie I picked up was a Kingpin production called Revival. Mm-hmm. Remember like Chad Otterstrom and like Andrew Crawford and Scotty Whitlake and all those, in my eyes, were just like these superhero icons, like unattainable kind of, it was like a different planet to be watching that stuff. But it was really cool. And like the local hill that I grew up riding, it's called Vassfjellet, which is like 45 minutes away from Trondheim, the city I grew up in. Yeah. And for me, it was, when I got into it, it was mainly night riding.
Oh, interesting.
So I got to ride after school. Yep. That allowed me to ride almost every day. Yeah. So just after school, like getting on the bus at 4 p.m. and then just going till 9 p.m. Dude, coming home.
Oh, it's so cool having that.
Yeah.
That tier of access. It's kind of like you're familiar with like Highland Hills
Yeah.
in the Midwest here, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many good snowboarders that have come out of there. Just, you know, you're able to like get such easy like exposure. You don't have to have this huge production to get up to a big resort every weekend with your family or something like that.
It was small.
Like,
it was
like the accessibility.
Yeah, we didn't have, like, there was some tow ropes, but not like those ones. It was more like T-bars.
Yeah.
We had 2 T-bars and like this cup bar thing, like a single person thing. That was ridiculous. But pretty small resort. We didn't have much of a park in the beginning. I remember the first time they ever got rails was when, like, a couple years into me being there, and like the first time they got rails, like they just had like some local dude that sort of knew how to weld, put them together, and they were stashed in the parking lot for the first half of the season. So we'd like just build our own kickers, like street rail setup for actual park rails that were supposed to be put in, but they were just, nobody put them in.
Yeah.
They were just in the parking lot. And we had like a 12-foot half pipe. That was like, that was
class,
more,
I bet.
that was more the vibe. Like the like snowboard community there was, I mean, it was basically like all DIY mentality. Even the half pipe, they had a cutter for it, but most of the time, like the cat driver there that would shape the pipe would like, he would groom the right side pipe wall and then like just leave. Just don't do that. He didn't bother doing the other one.
Yeah.
Most of the time he's like,
enough.
I'm done. I'm gonna
done.
go. I want to go home. So like we'd hand shape a lot of it most of the time, and but it got better and better, and like they started putting things in, and it was, I think they fed off of like our stoke for snowboarding and riding features and stuff. But
Yeah.
most of the fun we had was off of like little bumps and just making the best of like the terrain that was there.
Yeah, totally.
And riding trees and stuff. So I think that helped me just develop like let's make the best out of any sort of situation or any feature, like any day, any like the climate there is very close, very similar to the East Coast, where it's like a lot of freeze thaw.
So I was gonna say I kind of had like, keep going with this, but I had something to add to it.
Yeah, like very often you'd have like, it would be raining during night riding, and then the next day it would freeze, which was cool for, they'd have like these snowmaking mounds that they never closed or roped anything off, but you just had these crazy features, and they were really fun to ride, and like learning a lot about adapting to different transitions and stuff, just riding snowmaking mounds. But when they'd freeze, it'd be like a slip and slide crazy, like sometimes we'd go just unstrap and just have fun sliding on our butts down crazy, like moguls and stuff.
Dude,
like that.
I know exactly. It's so funny because everything you were saying, I didn't know this, but I can like completely relate to it. Cause I grew up riding on the East Coast, at a ski resort called Stowe. And even what you were saying with like we had a train park and a half pipe, but still looking back on it, it definitely was left something to be desired for. Like the lips were steeper than the landings, if that gives you like any indicator of the build.
Yeah.
Like the half pipe was typically like one wall would be just blue ice. Like you could knock on it and like put an ice screw into it if you wanted to. But we called them whale tails. Yeah. And I totally forgot about that until you just brought it up. And like, so in general, our mountain is like pretty rocky, like rocks covered in moss. So anyways, there's a lot of like side cliffs and hits, and we would all spend a majority of our time just free riding essentially and finding like different transitions to like ollie in around and stuff like that. And then, the whale tails, I completely forgot about that, man. They were crazy because the resort would just like blow snow overnight and show up in the morning in this like monstrous, like Dr. Seuss looking castle trail would have formed, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy.
And half the time they would just, it felt like sometimes they would forget to turn them off when the temperatures would get too hot. So they were just gushing water into the slopes, and then that would freeze. And like I remember sometimes we'd, like, speaking of adapting, like we'd try to like make our way from one side of the slope to the other without like losing our edge and like slipping down. But it turned into this game of like trying to do as many nada spins like on the ice as possible and like without falling, just like turning everything into a game. It was really cool.
That's so cool. Dang, man. Like, and did you know, because from my understanding, at least compared to the US, like snowboarding and especially skiing are pretty kind of like mainstream sports in Norway. Was that kind of the case for you? And did it seem like this pretty established sport? And were you like early on, I'm going to be a pro snowboarder. This is like, that's something I can do. And this is something I want to do.
No, not in the beginning.
Yeah,
for sure. There was none of that. I didn't see a path for it. It was just something that I fully was able to embrace as something that I was good at and progressing at, and where I found a community where I didn't at the time really have like a community outside of snowboarding. So when I found snowboarding, it kind of everything went into flow for me as far as like making real friends and like having a sense of like, you know, belonging in like through snowboarding. Like that gave me all of that. And then for me it was just, there was no ambition yet of like wanting to be like, I didn't know really what successful meant for me like, in snowboarding, or like there was no ambition for that other than just I knew that this is all I want to do. Yeah. And it just allowed me to be like super present with myself and just have something to go towards. And then like later on, because we were kind of like a remote resort out of the way, like a few years in, there was this contest, like a regional contest that came to town where some of my friends encouraged me to like enter, which I never really thought about competing in snowboarding before that. And then, so I did that, and then I ended up like winning the contest. And that sort of like even my mom was just like, okay, like there's something here, like, damn, you know, like maybe there's something to it. And I think that sparked something more of like, okay, like I didn't really ever at that point, I don't think I'd compared myself to other riders as far as ability before. It was more just like, we're just all doing this thing. And then fanning out over the new snowboard movies, you know, and wanting to just learn as much as we could, as fast as we could. So that kind of just sparked the whole, like, okay, maybe I can actually do this as a, like I can make something out of this.
Totally.
Like,
yeah. And that kind of like winning that contest, then that probably motivated you to seek out other ones or something, or did you just kind of wait for another one to cruise through town and see how it goes?
Yeah, there was another thing I became aware of during that contest, because there was this like sports school in Norway that you can apply for, where the kids that were a little older that were already in this school, like they would go, it's like a sports school where they just like allow you to do your sport more. Yeah. And like kind of adapt the school part of it and those things to like fit your schedule of surrounding like events and things like that. So that school had sent a bus of kids to this contest because they would go to all the regional events. And that's how I heard about this school. And then like me hearing about that and this program that's available, like you can go, because I didn't really know what I was going to do for school. I just knew my mom wanted me to like stay in school.
Dude. Yeah.
So it was like kind of a perfect fit when I realized that was an option. Like I'm like, okay, I want to do that because I want to do anything that allows me to just snowboard more and do less of school, which I didn't like at all. But it was like a happy medium.
Yeah.
Plus I beat all those kids that came in the bus to like travel to this thing. I was like, okay. So I applied for that, and then I got into that, and then, you know, growing the community, like making new friends from different parts of the country, and then all of a sudden like traveling to all the regional events and doing well at those, and then slowly, I got an opportunity. One of my friends there was going to go to the Burton European Open in Livigno in Italy at the time.
What year was this?
Must have been like 2005 or 6 or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But the European Open, they had a junior jam, like a junior event.
Yeah, totally.
Side of it. And so my homie's dad was going to chaperone us and like help us get down there. I was 16 at the time. And that was my first time out of the country snowboarding, and ended up like winning the junior thing, like overall.
Cool.
Because they had half pipe and slopestyle.
Totally, yeah.
And I remember like winning that. I got an opportunity to ride in the pro event, and then my homie and his dad and their family, they left because they had to go home because they only went down for the junior stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And then I was stuck there alone. And I had to figure out, I was 16, I had to figure out how to get home. Like I was more nervous about that than riding the contest. Because like figuring out like travel, and I was like a child.
Dude, looking back, because I competed a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I can totally relate to these situations looking back. I mean, I'm not sure what your schooling was, but like I moved from the East Coast to Utah when I was 14. You know, like my family didn't move with me, and I went to like a academy and host family, all this stuff. But anyways, yeah, with snowboarding, I would end up, especially from like 14 to 17, I'm looking back on these like sleeping on random people's couches to then like get someone to give you a ride to like the airport or something. Just the most like kind of rogue travel, like logistics you're managing as a child.
Yeah.
Like looking back on it, you're like, oh man, that was kind of loose.
Yeah. No, it was terrifying.
Yeah, in the moment you're like, well, I guess this is what I have to do. I got to find my way home now.
Yeah. There was a couple Norwegian pro riders, like older ones, that were in the pro contest that was there. And they got to speak to my mom, and like they were going to help me get to this one train station. That's all I knew. But I had to get from that train station, take 2 trains to get to Innsbruck, and like find a hotel, which I ended up
before smartphones too.
Yeah.
You know,
I got there at like midnight, and then didn't have a hotel room booked, and I had to like find a hotel room with my board bag and everything, just like drenched in sweat. And then for the first time ever, like get to the airport and fly home from Europe, like it was terrifying.
Yeah.
But getting through that was like, I felt so accomplished. Like it was,
yeah, totally.
It was such a like milestone for me to be able to have done that and get and survive it, basically, like without getting robbed or like whatever, like there was so many fears like popping up but it was just like, coming back to school after that, it was like, I had this feeling of like, I've experienced something here.
Yeah.
Like that's like,
you don't know what I've seen.
It was kind of like that, like,
I mean, dude, that early I'm kind of thinking about this on the fly too, but like culturally, and especially if you go back in history, a lot of cultures have this like, you go out into the world and find yourself, and you experience this transition from adolescent to adulthood. There's
hero's
like
hero's
journey, right? And like, you know what I mean? There's kind of, snowboarding's cool in that sense because, I mean, you can see it in like, you graduate high school, and for a lot of people, that's their hero's journey, or you go to college and you check these boxes. But for me, and it sounds like for you, snowboarding sort of provides this like, you go out, you flounder, you kind of struggle, you don't know what's going on, and then you make these accomplishments, you win the contest, whatever, you get home or something, you find your way home, and you're like, get that confidence to be like, oh, maybe I'm not like a child anymore. I have some skill sets and tools to like
life
take
skills.
Control.
Yeah. It's like stepping out to the unknown, because like I could have turned around at any point there because I thought about it, because I had the choice, like I had the safety of my friend and his dad. They were going to go home. I had a ticket. I had the safety of that, and I could have chosen and I wanted to for a bit there, just to like, no, like I'm good. Like I've had the experience. I already did well at the contest. I can go home, you know, and like that's safe and like everything's going to be taken care of. And I don't want to deal with like doing this huge journey home like on my own. But I made the choice, and like it's like stepping out into the unknown and like, okay, I'm just going to see what happens here, and like it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right kind of thing. And like those other pro riders, like they made sure, you know, because for them, they'd like done it hundreds of times already.
Yeah.
They're like, you're going to be fine. It's all good. But it's like getting to Innsbruck, and like, I even got my credit card like scanned at an ATM.
Yeah.
And got a call from the bank. Hey, did you try to spend 20,000 euros yesterday in Innsbruck? I'm like, no.
Dude. I'm 16. What do you think? Just trying to go home.
I don't have any money. But it worked out. And like coming home, it's like you get this like confidence boost of like, okay, the world isn't that scary. Like you can make this happen. And I don't know what it's like now for most kids coming up through like coaching programs and things like that, where everything's taken care of all the time, and like they don't necessarily have to step into positions like that where you have to just really
take ownership,
listen to yourself and trust in yourself to like know that this is going to be all right, without necessarily someone else that you trust telling you like you're fine.
Yeah.
You got to like listen and just know, like, I want to do this. I need to do this.
Yeah, totally.
I like that. There's like a call there, like a calling, like, and I think the part that makes it scary is the part that makes it important. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, which most of the time you don't learn till after the fact, but like going into something scary, sometimes it might be a huge jump, or like Chad's Gap or something like that too, where it's like, I don't know about this, but like you find this spot inside where you're like, no, I think I got this. And then you cultivate that and focus on that instead of the fear, which is just most of the time anyways, is just noise.
I've had some kind of cool conversations about this in the past, and it'd be sweet to get your perspective on it, right?
It's just overcoming.
Like, yeah, it's like overcoming, and it's like, you know, because I've circled around to the fact, it was like, well, why? It's almost like we like fear and overcoming like adversities and struggles is a valuable thing to do as a human. And I've like circled back to like, well, why is that? And, you know, the answer I've come around to, because you could, especially in today's society, you can just spend so much time like comfortable, complacent, happy. That's sort of how like our architecture is built out. And I don't know. I mean, for me, I think like, it's like, yeah, it's a way to build confidence, and like with that confidence you're able to like think clearer and like just see the world around you in a much clearer way. But like, what's your input on that, right? Like the importance behind trying to manage your fear and keep like pushing forward through this, you know, the scary contest or the savage backcountry jump or something like that.
Yeah.
Your why to, I'm sure, being afraid or like in dangerous situations or whatever, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
You know,
I think
there's so much more to it than just being like an adrenaline junkie, which I think is like the tagline that a lot of people see folks like yourself ride as. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's just a part of pushing yourself and progressing and like not being stagnant and becoming something more, like learning about yourself more and like your own limitations and finding out what is it that is standing in my own way, you know, where it's most of the time it's your thoughts or, you know, your self-talk can be super destructive, but like learning how to bypass that and progress in a way you're just learning to listen to yourself rather than like listening to other people's opinion or anything like that, where most of the time, like in life, you're uniquely you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. And a part of that is listening and learning to listen to yourself, because there's hundreds of people, thousands of people in life that wants to tell you how things are and what to do and what not to do and what to be afraid of. There's so much fear. And a part of us, like constantly like having this snowboarding practice of learning to listen to our own limitations and what can we push and what can we bypass. It's like for skateboarders too, or any like action sports athlete, you learn how to like sort of carve your own path of like what you want to be and how you want to portray yourself and progress as a human, because there's so many life skills there where if you get stuck with just listening to like your friends or people you think are your friends or even your family sometimes, or like, because they don't know most of the time the position you're in, because they're trying to tell you things based on their experience and their lifetime and their own fears, and like, no, you shouldn't do that, that's a bad move. But we learn to bypass that and follow our own intuition, and I think that's super powerful. And like, even when it comes down to falling or getting hurt, and like learning how to get back up and keep going and seeing what's on the other side of that, versus like getting hurt once and then be like, nah, that's not for me, like that was hard and I don't want to do that. I don't want things to be hard. Where we learn that like pushing through things that are hard is that's where the gold is,
Totally.
And it's not, there might be like financial reward or something like that tied to it, but that's not the thing. Like, it's the feeling you get from like, oh man, like I did that shit,
dude.
Like I overcame that.
Totally.
Totally.
So, do you feel like, I mean, that kind of intuition you're talking about and like sort of, following where your like gut feeling it might be bringing you, was that kind of like, I want to get your like motivation behind transitioning into backcountry, and also like how that seemed to be paired up with like, also, I mean, it's kind of corny, but like you really were like completely ahead of the curve on like embracing, YouTube with like shredbots and all of that stuff. And I think it's like, at this point too, it's been enough years, it's like you're like ahead of your time in a lot of aspects of like having control in your career, and it shows a lot now. And I'm like, did you just like follow, like you're just doing what you want, or did you like, was that really premeditated to try make those transitions and like implement those like production outlets and stuff in your snowboarding? Does that make sense?
I was always super interested in the filming side from the beginning. That's kind of what I wanted to do, but I got really good at competing early, and I realized that was sort of my ticket in to the industry and my ticket into potentially meeting filmmakers and getting on crews and stuff like that, which I was always like looking for. And I always had sort of like, once I knew there was a path for me here, like I wanted to make it in filming and like be a part of videos and stuff like that. And as a side note to that, like some of the my most favorite movies were like Robot Food, where you had a lot of like bonus section material where you got to know the riders more and like get to see a little bit of what they're like outside of snowboarding, and just more personalities. That was huge for me to see. So that was in the back of my head. So once I got into filming, I just had this like, I don't know, like I wanted to give a little more of myself, because I just knew how powerful like showing more than snowboarding was to me as a fan. So like it was easy for me to, once I got into that and had my own cameras and stuff, it just felt natural to be showing a little bit more of me as well.
Yeah.
And for a long time I was balancing like a tight contest schedule and filming as much as I could in between, which was easier in the beginning, because when I was riding X Games and Do Tour and maybe an Aaron style, there was a lot of time in between events to just go and film and making it to a point where I could film for standard films, or like any of the big production companies. Like even then I was really interested in the editing side and like the whole like production of the whole of a piece like that to come out. even like my first year filming for Standard, I went to the editor's house. This guy Travis Robb, that lived in Squamish, because I went to ride a Camp of Champions for the summer, but I spent like 2 weeks at his house, just like fly on the wall, just learning like how he's cutting and doing stuff, and ended up like just helping out a little bit with the editing side and learning so much. And I kind of going back to school of something I was really, really interested in. And then filming for them a couple of years, I realized like I wanted to just, having learned everything I knew and what I knew about cameras, and I got to a point where I was making enough money to be able to hire a filmer. I just wanted to document this crazy lifestyle that I was like, this moment in time that I was in. I think it was after one of my injuries. Like I had a lot of time to think and like, what am I going to do next? Like I want to do something different. So like hiring a filmer to follow me was a move that kind of took everything to the next level. And that's how I got into the YouTube and stuff like that, just creating your own channel and starting to just put out more, because we were doing cool stuff all the time. You know?
I know that's something that like blows me away, is that, and I feel like there's a handful of riders like this, but yourself especially, is it just seems like you're always going riding, like especially in those, you know, I'm thinking of that kind of 2013 to 2016 era. It was just like you kind of had like these resources put in front of you, and then you're like, pedal to the metal, I'm like all in like two. I mean, I don't know if people completely understand, is that like 90s, early 2000s, even the mid 2000s, like it was kind of common to balance competition and backcountry riding. But from my recollection, and like I'm sure you'll be able to add to this, it was like kind of that 2010, 2014 era, it became way less common and everyone started specializing. Like, you know, it used to be that one guy could do slopestyle, half pipe, and film a video part. And then now there's kids who specialize just in big air even, and then slopestyle and just half pipe or just rails or just backcountry. And like, you were doing everything at like a time that people were putting all of their resources just to like stay at a high level in one field. You were able to like stay at a high level in like every field, and that's just like insane. I don't know. Like, was that premeditated or hard, or did you like, or was it just kind of like seemed like the natural thing to do?
Yeah, I think I had this thing where I wanted to do as many different aspects of snowboarding as I could. Where
why is that?
I didn't want to be. I had this thing where I didn't want to be like boxed in as like one type of rider.
Typecasted.
Because I had some interviews early on that was solely directed on like slopestyle competition or something like that, where I don't know, I had this thing where it might have just been like crazy self-talk, but I felt like the interviewer was trying to pigeonhole me into this box of like, oh, he's like just this contest jock kid, where that for me manifested in like, no, like I want to be filming, like that's what I want to do, and I want to learn and progress in as many aspects of snowboarding as I can, and like be as much of like this like ATV snowboarder as possible, or like dedicating a lot of time to like street riding and that kind of filming, and like and park riding and half pipe and backcountry, and like and it just developed this thing where like every single week of the season was interesting in a new way, or like every part of the season was so different. And like going from a street trip to like the X Games, you know, it's such a contrast. And going from the X Games to the Sonora Pass backcountry, like it's so different. It's like, but there was so much learning and there was so much energy there, and just everything's new all the time, you know? So that is something that I think for me, just putting in the energy, like I got so much back from that, and so much learning, and like even into the post-production side, like learning about the editing and the music and the soundtracks and like choices, like why does this fit? Why does this look pleasing to the eye? Like, why does it flow with this song? Like, all this stuff, which ultimately just led me to like wanting to produce my own stuff, I think. And I think it just sprung out of like, I don't want to get stuck just doing this one thing, because I'll get bored.
Yeah.
You know? I want to keep it interesting and flowing as much as possible. I think I just had like this drive to maintain that and to keep learning, and figure out things for myself. Like, what is it? Instead of hearing somebody talk about it and their path, like figure out for myself, like what does that mean for me? Like, why is that interesting to me? Something like that.
Something like that. Dude, that's sick. I mean, it's so cool that you're kind of ironic maybe is the right word to use, that in the traditional setting of school and where you're quote unquote supposed to be learning, you're not into it. It didn't seem like it was your place. And then you found like something you were interested in, which turned out to be, right, snowboarding. But within snowboarding, there's just all these different facets. And you're like on this never ending pursuit now of learning. And it's like kind of sick that you like have like embraced that path, and then, you know, sort of to realize that like you don't want to be stagnant or something in one lane. Like it's pretty sick.
Yeah, well, I think it's just realizing that you don't know much is a huge thing.
Yeah.
You know? And I think for me, the more I learn, the more I realize that there's a lot of things I don't know.
It's funny how that works, right?
And coming in like in a snowboarding universe, it's a pretty narrow scope. But there's so much to learn, you know, and like wanting to, and it's still such a young thing. Like there's this feeling of like there's so much room for growth and expansion and progression there. So the more you learn, the more you can tap into the unknown, and that comes to like, it can be like pioneering tricks or ways to make movies. It doesn't matter. Like there's still so much room there, where especially now too, like with all the experience that I've had and seeing how competition snowboarding is going right now, with like they're trying to box it in and it's getting very standardized. And I mean, I don't know if it's easier for the public to watch and pay attention to what's going on. It's like, but it's getting standardized. It's getting to the Olympics. It's this super like high level athlete sport now, which the lines between that and filming back in the day was super blurred.
Yeah.
And they were crossing over, and there was a lot of flavor to it and a lot of experimentation going on all the time, where it seems to me like in competition snowboarding now, the room for experimentation is getting pretty narrow. And like kind of, because they're trying to box it in and standardize it to like get this formula going. And it's turning into like a classic sport, which is cool in its own right. There's positives and negatives. There's right and wrong ways to do that, in my opinion, but it leaves this huge door open to what we're so in love with, and the passion that we have for snowboarding and exploration and experimentation, which is it's a huge part of what we do, you know, and that door is still wide open in the filmmaking side and the edit making side, and just in the even without cameras, just going split boarding and like finding your own path and going into nature and being away from resorts. Like it's blowing up, you know, and people are catching on to this thing. And it's, I think for me right now, I'm in a very like lucky position where I'm able to promote that side of snowboarding. And that is my main motivation, to give back to the sport, because I know that's what got me into it, and that's what got me hooked on snowboarding, was that side. And like that was all experimentation. They were making it up as they went, and it was radical, you know. And there's that side of our thing is so alive and frothing, and knowing that us putting out projects that inspires us, mainly like doing projects that where you're not trying to, where your intention isn't to fit into a formula, but you're trying to create something that, like, even the ideas before you go out any given day is inspiring. Like, we're going to try to find something new. We're going to try to shoot it in a new way, maybe get some new tricks, and always like try to get something new that even every single shot that you get is inspiring to you. So that when the movie's made like that, it's been inspiring you the whole time. And I think that's what creates true inspiration for kids when they see that, because that energy transmits.
Oh, dude.
Totally. Where it's like, because if it's just copied, like you hear it on the radio, you know, when it's a song that's like, yeah, this kind of sounds like 99% of the other crap I've heard in the last couple of years within any genre, you know. If it's on the radio, it's created to fit into a formula because it's proven that it works and it makes money for people. So they're trying to make the same thing happen over and over again because they're scared to try something new. And people catch on to that. That doesn't inspire, you know. And it's the same thing in snowboard videos. If it's just trying to fit this mold, it's not gonna deliver this. It's gonna work for someone, you know. It's still good, but the real stuff, I think, is where the intention is to explore the unknown. That, you know, if it's a visual that's like, wow, like this day is insane. This jump, this spot is insane. How can we capture it in the best possible way? Yeah, you know. And then you bring that home and you put music to it and you tie it up to other shots and you cut it in this way. It's like, it's magic, you know. You're creating magic out there, you know. And people, like, they want to see that because that's what reminds them of, like, I can go out and do this stuff myself.
Yeah, I know. It's like a way that you're kind of able to, like, provide like a window into allowing people to think, like, it's like bigger than yourself, or you think beyond yourself, and you just in that manner of thinking, you get to this, like, purest, most fulfilling form of yourself, right? It's that, like, weird cyclical thing. And even what you're saying with, like, tricks and kind of like, because I know exactly what you're saying, and especially having watched snowboarding, been involved with it for so long, you do see, like, someone does a trick and you're like, you're kind of like, you can tell when someone's kind of doing it just to do it. And then at other times, there's other riders, like, I would say you're definitely in this boat, and like Sam Taxwood, I think, is a good character, that when you see someone like him or yourself ride, it's like, you almost feel like you kind of know, like, the person in a way. Like, so much of yourself is shown in that experience. And then, you know, for a lot of us, there's also this forethought into, like, how is it going to film? How am I going to make it look? What's the feature look like? And it is kind of magic. It is cool. And I'm thinking back to I can think of, like, maybe one of my favorite clips I've ever filmed was also one of the most, like, well received too. And it wasn't like anything big. It was kind of just like,
it probably felt easy.
And it was so easy. Yeah. I did, like, it was up near Squamish, and it was just this, like, did, like, a front nine off of this, like, old wood pile in, like, a huge field or something. Yeah. Like, did this grab that I, like, reached around as a bloody Dracula, and, like, landed first try, and it was all effortless. And, like, the land, it just didn't look like the jump would totally work. And then, like,
was that for forward?
That was for Pepper.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, like, all completely clicked. And even, like, it was one of these situations I'm sure you've had that I was like, I think this should all line up, but, like, that kind of looks bad with the lip, and this sort of looks bad with the landing. But let's, like, if it works, I'm pretty sure it'll be really sick. And it will also feel like, it will just feel like something that I was supposed to do as myself. Yeah. You know, and then, like, it just completely showed that way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's cool how that happens, right?
Yeah. It's almost like back to the listening part too, when you're out there, because so many times you can reflect on things that were forced, where you're like, you really wanted this specific trick and you had it in your mind for a while and you're just trying to make it work, where the spot or the time of the day or whatever, the snow conditions might not be right for it, but your ego just really wants this trick to check it off the list or something, and it just doesn't work. You know, it's just you might land it, you might get it, but it felt forced, and the footage doesn't look that great, and like it just doesn't come out. Versus like, okay, being a little patient and just, okay, this might not be the right day for this. Like, I'm sure I'll get another opportunity for a different spot that'll work better for this trick. And I'll try something else today, you know, and learning how to work with that kind of flow, I think is super important too. You need to put in the effort. You need to put it out there that you want to create something, but there's a balance there, I think, of finding that sweet spot where it's like, just enough effort, but also like a healthy dose of just ease, where it's like, okay, just stopping for a second. When you're done with the spot too, like I had this thing that I would do that helped me a lot, kind of like accidentally, but I think it was a part of my coffee addiction at the time that, that helped me.
Yeah.
I'll tie it in, don't worry. But every time we'd go out in the backcountry and we'd build a jump, every time we were done building the jump, I would just be like, okay, let's take a break now. Like, I need to drink some coffee. Like, let's just chill. Like, we've sweated over this thing for hours now. Like, let's take a minute before it needs to set up. Like, let's let the jump breathe a little bit. We can breathe a little bit. Like, just drink some coffee, maybe have some lunch, like take a second. And I think just that in itself, even though like most of the time I wouldn't be aware of that, but just pausing that way and thinking about something else or talking to someone and just, relaxing for a second, not stressing over like this trick. I think that would allow just enough of a gap to be like, okay, what is it? And even having a conversation with your homies, like, totally. What are you thinking here? Like, what do you want to do? Like, which is cool too, for like, so you don't have 4 guys trying the same trick. Yeah. It's like, let's try to, we're making a project here. Like, let's diversify, like let's combine our portfolios here. Like, we can, play,
spread the love a little.
Yeah. But I think just that is so important. And especially when it comes down to shit that can be scary, and pausing for a bit in any way that it might be with some tea or just with just some breathing or whatever, like just taking a second and listening to the jump, even like what, and the landing, like what is it, what can you visualize here that makes sense as far as like, and sometimes it's not even about the trick, because sometimes the spot is so scary that like even just clearing the gap is like the move, you know? Yeah. Or if it's a big backcountry hip with a tight landing, like finding the exact right speed for certain spots, all you need is to blast a method. Yeah. And it just that's enough magic right there. But stopping, pausing, and listening to the surroundings, I think helps you. Like, sometimes you just get these downloads of like, oh yeah, maybe that trick will work. And like, where did that come from? Yeah. And then you go up and you're like, you just stick to that and you land it first try, and everything just felt too easy. Yeah. And the shot just can't, everybody's relaxed and like, it's like the best shot you got all season. And it just like, why did that feel so effortless? And I think there's something there to just stop every once in a while and just, even afterwards, like, why did that work? And just self-analyze a little bit. Yeah. Just like, why did that work? And like, how can I apply that more throughout the rest of the season, but also like in life, Like,
Totally, man. 1,000%.
Like, why did I have a shit time at the post office today? Oh, because this guy cut me off at the stoplight or whatever. And I got super pissed and was like spending 10 minutes being super angry in my head about this dude that I don't even know before I came to the post office. And I stood in line for a while and I'm just hurting, like stressing.
Yeah.
Like, why is that?
You know, it's... I forget what the exact term is that a friend of mine was using the other day, but there's a wave you almost like, you're like catching a wave of energy in a way, right? Like the guy cuts you off and you're pissed, and then all of a sudden you're kind of on that wave and it's compounding and just so many other shitty things happen.
Yeah.
Whereas like the other wave could be like you catch the wave of pausing for the jump, being psyched to hit it, talking, and all of a sudden you're on this track of like sound decision making, clear thinking, and like good intentions or something. It's funny how like you can like, and it's so important with filming to sort of like consciously try catch the right like lane to pursue, because I've gotten sucked down the other ones plenty of times, and you're like, well, that was a shitty day. Like, I hate this.
Yeah. And it's we've all been there, but I think it's good to even just to talk about it, because in the backcountry, like if everybody's on that sort of, if the crew has an intention to like, let's try to like make this flow as much as possible today, even from a safety standpoint, that's like super good, you know? If everybody's like, okay, let's just agree today, like we're not bringing any like, let's try to just be as present as we can today with like what we want to, like what is it that we want to achieve, and not bring any like mental drama from whatever like we're going through on the personal side outside of snowboarding. Like, let's just have like the best day today, like no matter what. Like, it's a little cloudy, maybe we'll find something in the trees. It's gonna be good. Like we'll make something happen. At the very least, we'll set something up for tomorrow, because tomorrow's looking blue. Let's try to find the best spot we can for tomorrow. Maybe that's the goal, you know? Or maybe it's like digging a pit, just checking the snow conditions, like even just being out in the forest, like whatever it is. I think if you have a crew where there's like a collective intention like that, like it's going to be good. Like, and if every day is like that, if every week is like that, the project's going to be insane.
Totally.
You know? It's just going to, like that energy versus like a whole season of a whole crew and everybody stressing and competing against each other and just carrying that energy, and it's just a struggle the whole time, and everybody's pissed off and stressed. Like that's, and then you put it to some death metal and it's just like, like kids are watching this like
snowboard video on your hands.
Thanks for
making me anxious,
stressing me out, you know, like that was stressful to watch. But I mean, there's a million different ways to do it. And that's like, it's so unique because like there's so much personality there and like essence, and like there's 100 different ways to do a cab 5, and you're putting your flair on it, you know? And like the snow that day and how the crystals exploded when you landed, and it's like, you're out there creating magic, and it's inspirational. I think for people to watch for people to watch and witness other people that are in sort of this flow inspires them to like think outside of the box a little bit. No matter if it's like going to the skate park that day or going to work. It's like, that's stuff like that sticks, you know? It could be a shot of John riding a barrel at a pipeline or something that's just perfectly filmed. And it's just this one shot that inspires like, wow, like I worry about a lot of dumb shit. That's just not necessary today. Like, let's just go outside. That's what it's for, you know?
Totally. Kind of on this topic of like showing your personality and stuff like that, you've made your own music for quite a while, and from my understanding, in the last few years you've started to score and do your own sound design and like build out music around the videos that you're making, which is just this like a whole other layer of putting yourself into the piece, right? How's that been?
Sometimes I've done it for a couple of different projects, but it's not. Music for me is super important. I've been making music for a long time. It's always been with me, like on trips and wherever. Like as soon as I got my first laptop that had like its own music software in it, I was able to like start tinkering and
GarageBand.
Yeah. GarageBand's awesome.
Totally. Sorry, derailed you
Yeah,
there.
it's so good.
So what was like the first project you did that for?
The first one I scored was called Afterlight.
Okay.
Where I just made the music specifically for it. Other times I've done like a bunch of edits and stuff where I've had music like pre-made, where it was like easier to, that's kind of how it started. It was easier to just put in one of my tracks instead of finding a new song that, you know, like we previously had rights for, and then we didn't have the rights for it. And then all of a sudden it's like 2 weeks before the deadline, and I'm like, okay, let's just put this in here. It's like, it's going to work. The first one I did that for was called Reboot, where I had like the intro song and one of the tracks in the middle. But as far as scoring, like, and getting into like the flow and the motion of the shots and everything, that was Afterlight. And yeah, it's just, it definitely adds another layer.
Another layer of work.
Yeah. Snowboarding for me has been like, you know, this balance of like, yeah, this is a job and I have to, you know, I have sponsor obligations and I have to treat it like with a certain level of professionalism, but at the same time having this balance of like creative freedom. It's like, there's a balance there that I think I've been pretty good at maintaining that throughout my career. But with music, it's 100% creative freedom. It's 100% just me flowing. If it's not flowing, I'm not even doing it. It's just that is the door opener for me to like sit down and create. So it's in a lot of ways, it's a lot closer to my heart. So it's this like sensitive thing that it's hard to explain, but it's like music is medicine for me. Like it's so healing. It's insane. And it's so inspiring. And like for snowboarding too, it's helped me a lot in just working with those kinds of vibrations and then going out and snowboarding in the same day or the day after. Like it carries this like, it's like this yin and yang kind of thing. Like it's just balance.
Yeah. It's like a balance. It helps feed off each other.
Yeah. One's very like introspective and the other one's just like
out there, like
use your body, like movement, you know? So it's been something I've been tapping into more, like, and creating music, even like having fun session. Like there's a lot of other snowboarders that make music, and like collaborating with them or just getting silly, like making something fun, or something weird is just super fun. It's just tapping into like that side of creativity with, like-minded people. It's cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's rad. Dang. Well, I kind of want to transition the topic a little bit and talk about some brands that you've been working with over the past few years, most notably Norrona. As a snowboarder myself, I'm less familiar with that brand. Like, how did that come about? What are they all about?
Well, I departed from my previous sponsor, DC, a few years ago. It was kind of during COVID times, and which was kind of in a lot of ways perfect timing because everything just slowed down, and like it was like a weird season for all of us, I think. But like, yeah, for me stopping and pausing and getting a little break, not just from snowboarding but from like the professional side of it too, and just kind of having a whole season of not being tied to this huge company that I've been with for so long. And like,
you were DC for 10 years?
Yeah. Over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for everything that they gave me, and especially like Ken Block and how he was this human that would just realize people's dreams just on and on and on. Just this great being. and he gave me so much opportunity, but it was a good run. It gave me so much. And when that came to a pause, it was like kind of freeing in a way to like have a season of like exploring something new and not having like so many obligations for this one company. I think it allowed me to just take a little bit of a step back, and then the following season, then I got the opportunity and got into contact with Norrona, which I got introduced to a few years earlier through Andreas Wig.
Yeah.
Because he was with them for a while. So I was obviously knew about the brand, and like they're a company from 1929 in Norway. You know, they're old company, and they're always been around, and I always like grew up around their products, you know, seeing it as this like high quality exploration, like outdoors brand.
Yeah.
You know? But I didn't know much about it, but I got into it and just started having conversations with them. And then we made the partnership happen just before Natural Selection in Jackson.
Yep.
The season before last. And just decided to give it a go. You know, I explained to them like what my situation was, like what my ambitions are, like what my program is. And like, I got to learn about I got to learn a lot more about their history and stuff. And I got to meet the people, and it's like nice to talk to some people from the home country. And it's like kind of like coming home in a way.
Yeah.
And it just ended up being a really good fit. I was like instantly happy with their like fit and feel of their clothing, which is something that's always been really important to me as a rider, to like feel good about what you're wearing and comfortable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like having this, I don't know, I've been trying to get rid of stuff a lot lately.
We have a whole other conversation about that. I understand what that's like.
I want to have less stuff, and just, I got this like feeling like this feels good because this pant or this jacket, like I can ride in this for the rest of my life. Like this is not going to break, you know. It's super, super high quality outerwear. And it was nice to be dry in the backcountry for the first time. I gotta say, a skate brand making snowboarding outerwear is not, you know, it's
maybe not the most.
It can look dope, but as far as like functionality, it's probably
left something to be desired at moments.
There are other ways.
In
let's
those,
just say that
rainy parking lot mornings in Squamish, you test your outerwear pretty well.
Yeah. But so that was nice, you know, to put on something where like, okay, this feels legit. This feels sturdy. This is not going to break. This is going to support me even if I need to spend a night out there. Like I know I'm good.
You're safe.
Plus it, like I said, it's just a good fit and all the different, you know, definitions of that word. Mm-hmm. And being able to like sit in product development meetings with like 10 ladies that are on like seamstresses and like professional craftsmanship, like workers in the field, like their attention to detail, it just goes to show like they do all their sampling in house. They focus so much on sustainability and being, not creating more problems. But I think what it comes down to is like a brand that supports this mentality of like, you don't need 5 jackets, you know, like as far as eco-friendly and sustainability goes, like I think that's what's most important. Like having, like supporting a brand that speaks to like, you just need this one jacket. Like you don't need to buy one every season. Like for me too, it was the first time ever, like I've ridden now over 2 seasons in the same kit.
That's cool.
Like I have switched around a little bit to figure out like what I like and, you know, exploring stuff. But like for most of the seasons, 2 seasons in a row, like wearing the same jacket. It's like, I never did that with DC. I was just like, give me more free stuff. Like I love boxes showing up at my house. Like now I'm like, please don't send me any more stuff.
Yeah. My jacket's great.
Yeah.
It's still
I love
great.
this piece.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So it's cool like that. And they're good people.
That's a rad transition,
Yeah.
and that's cool to have found, a partnership like that seems to like be fulfilling in a way, besides just like trying to check the box of an outdoor sponsor, right? Where it's like actually you feel involved and like a part of something. And I think that goes to say a lot about, right, like the brand, but also then just, how fortunate it is when you do find that pairing.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful that I'm in a position where like I was able to where that just felt easy again, like it's like we talked about earlier, like we made contact and the conversation was easy to begin with. It just flowed. And then like, let's just do this. Let's give it a try. Cool. Let's not make it hard. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I know they're a brand that's like, they have their roots in exploration and climbing and skiing and just being outdoors. They know their stuff, but but they're also adapting to us, and they have more like, they have their Tamok line that's more like freestyle orientated, but it's still, it doesn't have to be like just snowboarding or just skiing. Like it's like we're all out there together in the mountains, like, but they are developing lines that are catering more to us and like the way we move, which is cool.
That's rad, man. I'm curious what, like, we've covered a lot of ground and sort of your roots and what you've been up to, and I'm curious what you planning what's going on this season? Do you have the next few seasons planned out? What's on your horizon?
I'm in the middle right now planning a project for the season, which is getting to be really exciting for me. I haven't really done a big project since we did Light. That's out on Shredbots. And the following season we did After Light, but it was more of a complement to Light. And I was talking to my wife, and we were just kind of spinning thoughts and getting this conversation about like, let's do something exciting this year. Yeah. And for me, it's always been like, if I have a project that I'm inspired by, even just the thought of, like, I know it's going to be like a good season. And it's been a couple of years since I've had that, focusing on the natural selection and kind of taking a little bit of a break from filming, but at the same time, keeping it alive. Like, I've been out in the backcountry with Mons Roysland a little bit, and like kind of showing him around a little bit. And we have been vibing super good, and just riding with some new people, and like just kind of expanding the tribe a little bit. So me and him and Mikey Cicerelli for now. I think maybe Cocard might join us, but we're gonna make a movie, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be really fun.
That's awesome.
So it's just, it gets me excited just talking about it. And I'll be trying to like, I like doing stuff all the time. So like, I'll be keeping my personal YouTube channel going. Okay. And just kind of covering the behind the scenes stuff, and like, I don't know, just showcasing a little bit more of like what goes into it, if I can, like trying to listen to what the fans kind of are interested in knowing about, as far as like the ins and outs and how things work and how we do things. And because we all do stuff sort of similar, but there's always like a unique way of doing things. And like, but speaking to that, I think is a cool way to like create content that's not just like shredding like awesomeness, which
you really get to like get that other perspective as to like who you are, right? And especially with the YouTube stuff, like people love that.
And for me, it's easy to do it. I'm well trained in it. It's just a matter of like picking up the camera, talking a little bit, showing some things, throwing some sprays. That's pretty much it. And it's gonna be fun to get into it as well, because like with the music side, like right now I just finished an album for the first time. So
sick. Congrats.
Thank you. I'm gonna be like releasing that and getting it off my plate, and then going into snowboard season, and like I'm hoping that it's gonna just flow into it.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good.
I'm sure it will. Oh man!
And hopefully we can cross paths when we're out there.
I know. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'll have
Fingers
to update you on our schedule and stuff, and try
dude, totally.
try to get you out there.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much. This was sick. I'm so psyched that
Thank you.
We've met intermittently in the past and have operated in similar circles, but we've never sat down. And
No, I know.
This was really sick for me,
Yeah.
and hopefully you enjoyed the conversation. And
Likewise.
did you have any other thank yous you wanted to toss out?
Oh, thank you, Backcountry. Thank you, Nils.
Yes.
I appreciate
Anytime.
the time. Yeah, and thanks to Norrona for setting it up and making the connection as well.
Cool.
And yeah, thank you, Winter.
Yeah. Shout out to Winter.
Shout out to Winter. Huge shout out.
Awesome. Well, dude, thanks a bunch again. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. If you like the show, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And in the meantime, from the crew at Backcountry, we will see you out there.